Hey everyone, welcome to Technically You.
Today, we're diving into storage as a service, or STaaS for short.
Yeah, and this is one of those topics that sounds really simple on the surface. It's just storing stuff in the cloud, right? But there's actually a lot more to it than most people realize.
Exactly. And here's the thing. Pretty much everyone is already using some form of STaaS, whether they know it or not. If you've got files in Dropbox, Google Drive, or iCloud, congratulations. You're a STaaS user.
That's true, but there's a big difference between consumer-grade storage services and enterprise STaaS solutions. So let's break this down properly.
All right, give us the technical definition. What exactly is storage as a service?
So STaaS is a cloud-based model where a provider manages and maintains storage infrastructure. And customers rent storage capacity on a subscription or pay-as-you-go basis. Instead of buying hard drives, SANs, or NAS devices and managing them yourself, you're essentially renting space on someone else's infrastructure.
Think of it like self-storage for your digital stuff. You don't build a warehouse in your backyard. You rent a unit at a storage facility. The facility handles security, maintenance, climate control, all that stuff. You just pay for the space you use.
That's actually a pretty good analogy. And just like physical storage facilities have different types of units, climate-controlled, drive-up access, different sizes, STaaS comes in different tiers and types depending on what you need.
So what are the main types of storage services out there?
There are three primary categories. First, you've got object storage. This is for unstructured data, like photos, videos, backups, archives. Think Amazon S3, Azure Blob Storage, Google Cloud Storage. This is probably the most common type.
That's what most media companies use, right? Like streaming services, storing all those movies and shows?
Exactly. Object storage is great for massive amounts of data that you don't need to constantly modify. It's highly scalable and relatively inexpensive. Second type is block storage. This is more like traditional hard drives. You can use it for databases, virtual machines, and applications that need high performance and low latency.
So that's more for active, working data rather than just archiving stuff?
Right. It's faster and more flexible, but usually costs more than object storage. And third is file storage. This is cloud-based file systems that work like network drives. Multiple users can access and collaborate on files simultaneously. Services like Dropbox Business, Box, or AWS EFS fall into this category.
So file storage is what most offices would use for day-to-day collaboration?
Exactly. It's familiar, easy to use, and great for teams working on shared documents and projects.
Let's talk about how this is different from the old way of doing things. What would a company have done before STaaS was an option?
Well, they'd buy their own storage hardware. Maybe a storage area network, or SAN, network-attached storage devices, or just a bunch of hard drives and servers. They'd need to estimate how much storage they'd need for the next few years, buy all that capacity up front, then manage it themselves.
And that's expensive, right?
Very. You're talking tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars up front, depending on the size of the organization. Plus, you need IT staff to manage it, maintain it, handle backups, plan for growth, deal with hardware failures.
And what happens if you run out of space?
Then you're buying more equipment, which takes time to procure, install, and configure. Or worse, you over-provisioned initially and paid for capacity you're not using.
So with STaaS, you avoid all that?
Pretty much. You start small, pay for what you use, and scale up instantly when you need more. No hardware to buy, no maintenance contracts, no worrying about drive failures or technology becoming obsolete.
Let's get into the benefits more specifically. What are the big wins here?
Number one is scalability. You can go from gigabytes to petabytes almost instantly. There's no waiting for hardware procurement or installation.
That's huge for growing companies or businesses with unpredictable storage needs.
Absolutely. Second is cost predictability. Instead of massive capital expenditure up front, you've got predictable monthly operational expenses. Most services charge per gigabyte per month, so you know exactly what you're spending.
Although, we should mention, cloud storage can get expensive if you're not careful, right?
Third benefit is accessibility. Your data is available from anywhere with an internet connection. That's essential in today's remote work environment.
Yeah, I mean, during the pandemic, companies that were already using cloud storage had a much easier transition than those with everything on local servers.
Definitely. Fourth is built-in redundancy and reliability. Good STaaS providers automatically replicate your data across multiple locations. If one data center has issues, your data is still accessible from another location.
So it's actually more reliable than having everything in one office?
In most cases, yes. Major cloud providers have 99.9% or higher uptime guarantees, which is better than most companies can achieve on their own. And fifth, you get automatic updates and maintenance. The provider handles all the infrastructure management, security patches, hardware upgrades, all transparent to you.
Okay, so it sounds pretty great. What's the catch?
Well, there are several things to consider. First is ongoing costs. While you avoid upfront expenses, those monthly bills add up over time. For massive amounts of data, long-term cloud storage can actually be more expensive than owning hardware.
How do you know when it makes sense versus when you should just buy your own storage?
Generally, if you've got relatively stable storage needs that aren't growing rapidly, and you're talking about petabytes of data, traditional storage might be cheaper long-term. But if you need flexibility, are growing quickly, or don't have IT staff to manage infrastructure, STaaS usually wins.
What else should people watch out for?
Data transfer costs can be sneaky. Many providers charge very little to upload data, but charge significant fees to download or transfer data out. This is sometimes called egress charges.
So you can get locked in a way?
Kind of. It's not exactly lock-in, but moving large amounts of data between providers can be expensive and time-consuming. You want to choose carefully up front. Third consideration is internet dependency. If your internet connection goes down, you can't access your data. And if you've got slow internet, working with cloud storage can be frustrating.
That's a real issue for some businesses, especially in rural areas or places with unreliable internet infrastructure.
Exactly. Fourth is security and compliance. You're trusting a third party with your data. For regulated industries like healthcare or finance, you need to make sure your provider meets all compliance requirements. HIPAA, General Data Protection Regulation, whatever applies to you.
And you need to understand where your data is physically stored, right?
Yes. Some regulations require data to stay within specific geographic boundaries. You need to know which data centers your provider uses and whether you can control where your data lives.
Let's talk about who actually uses STaaS and what they use it for.
One big use case is backup and disaster recovery. Companies use STaaS to store backups off-site. If their primary systems fail or there's a fire, flood, or ransomware attack, they've got copies of everything in the cloud.
That's basically digital insurance.
Exactly. Another major use case is media and entertainment. Video production companies, streaming services, content creators, they're generating massive files that need to be stored and accessed by teams around the world.
Right, because a single 4K video file can be hundreds of gigabytes.
Easily. Third use case is collaboration and file sharing. Teams working remotely or across multiple offices need a central place to store and share documents, spreadsheets, presentations, all that stuff. Healthcare is another big one, storing medical images, patient records, research data. Same with scientific research, financial services managing transaction records and documents, and basically any business dealing with large amounts of unstructured data.
What about just archiving old data that you don't need regular access to?
That's a huge use case. Most providers offer different storage tiers. You can put rarely accessed data into cheaper cold storage or glacier tiers that cost much less but take longer to retrieve. This is the end of part 1. Stay tuned for part 2.